What's up, YouTube? I'm Danielle. This is Kitchen Optimist. I'm a novice cook, but expert eater, taking on recipes that scare the salt out of me, 1 teaspoon at a time. When my friends and I would go to dim sum in Chinatown, we'd always start our meal with a large order of egg drop soup. Shout out to Royal Seafood. New York, pre-lockdown, the good old days. I love egg drop soup. I did actually try to make it once, but it was, let's say, unrecognizable and also disgusting. So I've shied away from it ever since, which was easy to do in New York because there were Chinese food restaurants on almost every corner, and it was far easier for me to just order a small. That's no longer the case, and the whole purpose here is to try things that scare me. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to make egg drop soup today. It is super simple in ingredients, perhaps not in outcome or success. Most of that will be done at the stove. I'm gonna do the slight amount of prep that this recipe requires. I'm using the recipe from walksoflife.com. I've never used any of his recipes before, also seemingly a theme here, but his description starts with, in my parents' Chinese restaurant, so that bodes well in my opinion. His recipe calls for 1 chopped scallion. I already washed this, don't come for me. So part of my challenge in cooking and in life is I tend to be extremely literal. Since his recipe calls for chopped scallions, not sliced, I've had a running mental monologue where I've tried to decide if this counts as chopping or slicing, just to remove any doubt. And yes, I did zoom in on the pictures to see if I could see what shape his slices were. Next up, 3 eggs lightly beaten. I'm gonna call that lightly beaten. We also need 3 tablespoons of cornstarch mixed with 1/3 cup of water. Maybe I've never had such a high cornstarch to water ratio before because this feels really gummy. I see what he means. He says you have to make sure to remix it before putting it in your soup because it settles really quickly. That's the end of the prep. The rest of the ingredients include 4 cups of chicken broth. He suggested organic or homemade. I went with organic this time because I didn't want to take the time to make chicken broth from scratch and then make this. Salt, toasted sesame oil, the dregs of my granulated sugar, turmeric, and white pepper. The turmeric is allegedly just for the coloring, which he says isn't necessary, but I am going for that restaurant feel, so I'm gonna go with it. I have a little of apprehension about it because turmeric is strong, and I'm scarred from the time my sports medicine doctor made me take tablespoons of turmeric daily, and it tastes like butt. Over to the stove. That took about 7 minutes to simmer, and now I add the rest of my ingredients. 3/4 of a teaspoon salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon sugar and of white pepper, 1 trepidatious ½ teaspoon of turmeric, go with God, and ½ a teaspoon of the toasted sesame seed oil. It has a yellow hue. I don't know if it is the yellow hue. Ooh, it really does settle. Pouring it in while stirring continually and trying to avoid splatters of turmeric-laced broth, as turmeric is extremely staining in both my clothes and my countertops experience. He says, depending on how thick you like it, adjust how much of the cornstarch you use. But I don't work with cornstarch super frequently, so I don't know. Okay, I'm supposed to test and adjust my seasonings at this point. Again, with the assumption that I know what this should taste like. We're gonna give it a little lick. That actually does taste pretty familiar. Okay, maybe I do know what it's supposed to taste like. Now we add our egg, forming our drop, so to speak. The rate at which you stir it apparently affects how big or numerous your egg drops are, although traditionally actually called egg flowers. This is not a history show. You can look that up. Now we add the green onion and that's it. So I'm gonna turn this off. In go the scallions. Let's try it. Maybe it's just my Chinese soup spoon, but that's pretty good. It is restaurant yellow. It has the green onions, an appropriate amount of salt. I wasn't sure if that was gonna be enough. It totally is. The texture is right. I'm happy with my egg drops. Don't have any clumps. Now, it doesn't taste exactly like restaurant egg drop soup, and that could very well be because there is no MSG in it. Walks of Life claims that it's pretty universally used, but that probably contributes to the taste we're used to tasting. I didn't use MSG because it was actually a lot harder to find recipes that do include include it since so many people are MSG averse. I am not. It is FDA approved. I've read a couple of articles that suggest that our alleged sickness resulting from MSG has a lot to do with racism and xenophobia. I'll link some of those below. The Mayo Clinic's website talks about how people report headaches, flushing, sweating, tightness of face, chest pain, weakness, a bunch of other really unfun symptoms as a result of MSG, but also says that there has been no scientifically linked proof to that. Regardless, the purpose of this is not to talk about how great MSG is. I really don't know if it's great. I personally have never had any bad results. I would happily use it. It was just really hard to find a recipe that included it. So some may say this is better for you. I don't know. It is good. I will absolutely make this again. I don't know if I said it, but you totally can't taste the turmeric. He did not steer us wrong. So I've almost finished my entire bowl. I'm gonna call this a total success. This was a full win. I will absolutely serve this to other people, which I think is a great barometer for whether or not you actually like it or you just like it because you spent the time making it. Total time, including assembling all my ingredients and pre-beating my eggs and pre-mixing my cornstarch, came to 32 minutes and 30 seconds. Next time, when I am far more competent and confident and a master at the home assembly and cooking of egg drop soup, I will know that I really do have enough time to chop my green onions, beat my eggs, and mix my cornstarch while the broth is coming to a simmer. I always try to do that in advance because my experience is so frequently recipes will say, do this while XYZ is happening, and there's just way not enough time. Now I know that I really could do that, which is great. I'm sure that will cut the time probably by like 5 or so minutes. In terms of cost, the ingredients cost $30.61, and the equipment, the pot, the measuring spoons, etc., came to $131.90. I like to include everything because everybody's kitchen is stocked differently, so that totals out at $162.51. I'm sure you probably have a lot of these already. You probably have a lot of the ingredients in your home too. I just like to include everything because you just don't know how other people's homes are stocked. For example, I had to buy white pepper for this recipe. It's super easy, not fussy, not MSG-y in this case, not turmeric-y, which is very important. Full win, walksoflife.com. The recipe will be linked below. I'm definitely gonna check out more of his recipes. Even if it hadn't been great, I tried something that scared me. I came out unscathed, as did my countertops vis-a-vis the turmeric. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Danielle. This is Kitchen Optimist, fighting the good fight for mediocre cooks everywhere. Stay salty.